Right now on Morning News Now, President-elect Trump making his mark ahead of his second term with one of his most controversial cabinet picks yet. He wants Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an outspoken vaccine critic, to be the next Secretary of Health and Human Services.
I guess if you like health and if you like people that live a long time, it's the most important position. We want you to come up with things and ideas and what you've been talking about for a long time.
We have team coverage as the new Trump administration takes shape and the criticism mounts. Developing this morning, parts of the Northeast on alert for more wildfires on what's forecast to be another windy, dry day. Plus, Tropical Storm Sarah churning in the Caribbean. We're tracking its path and how soon the storm could impact the U.S. A startling statistic shedding light on a continuing problem. More than 370,000 babies born prematurely just last year. We're going to look at why and what can be done about it. Plus, defying gravity before it even hits the box office. That's right, it's still a week away, but the new Wicked movie is already, well, popular. We're going to take you down the yellow brick road for more on the hype that brought the pink and green to the silver screen. Good morning. Good to have you with us on this Friday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment. We begin with the Trump transition and another cabinet pick that is raising eyebrows. The president-elect named Robert F. Kennedy Jr. as his pick for Health and Human Services Secretary. If confirmed, despite the fact he has no medical or scientific experience, RFK Jr. would be responsible for several agencies. That includes the Centers for Disease Control and the Food and Drug Administration. Kennedy has previously pushed false and misleading claims about vaccines. He supported Mr. Trump after dropping his own presidential bid earlier this year, including a run for the Democratic nomination. NBC News correspondent Vaughn Hilliard has the latest.
After teasing a potential administration role for weeks,
RFK Jr., he's going to help us on health and the health of women, and men, and children, and he is so good.
President-elect Trump selecting Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to be his next Secretary of Health and Human Services, writing, Americans have been crushed by the industrial food complex and drug companies who have engaged in deception, misinformation, and disinformation when it comes to public health. Kennedy is a former Democratic and independent presidential candidate who dropped out and endorsed Trump.
You want an America president who's going to make our country healthy again.
But he's faced criticism because of his history of vaccine skepticism, publicly espousing discredited assertions that vaccines cause autism. Vice President Harris slammed Trump for praising him.
He has indicated that the person who would be in charge of health care for the American people is someone who has routinely promoted junk science and crazy conspiracy theories.
Kennedy telling us last week that he would not block any vaccines.
I'm not going to take away anybody's vaccines. I've never been anti-vaccine.
You will not take any vaccine that is currently on the market.
I'm not. If vaccines are working for somebody, I'm not going to take them away.
During the campaign, Kennedy also made headlines when he said that 15 years ago, doctors told him he had a parasitic worm in his brain that died. Kennedy is a critic of U.S. healthcare policy who's advocated for big changes to food and drug regulation, writing last month, the FDA's war on public health is about to end, telling us he would eliminate parts of the FDA.
The nutrition departments at FDA that have to go, that are not doing their job. They're not protecting our kids.
That was Vaughn Hilliard reporting. Kennedy did put out a statement last night on X saying the country has a, quote, generational opportunity to put an end to the chronic disease epidemic. For more on the Trump transition, we're joined now by NBC News White House correspondent Ali Rafa. Ali, good morning. So let's begin there with RFK Jr. being named as the president-elect's choice for Health and Human Services Secretary. What is some of the reaction to this announcement?
Yeah, Joe, well, it can't be underscored enough how important this role would be if Kennedy is confirmed. As you heard Vaughn mention, with 13 health agencies under his purview, if he is confirmed. And because of those controversial past comments that he has made, those comments and positions, there was a mixed bag of reactions to this announcement of his nomination by the president-elect. You had Republicans on Capitol Hill praising this decision to nominate him, but still not saying how exactly they would vote during during his confirmation process, senators specifically, and across the aisle, the reaction was much less optimistic. Obviously, Democrats immediately condemning this decision, calling it, quote, dangerous and disturbing. And we also saw reaction from within the FDA, with many of those staffers worried about the future of their jobs after Kennedy had promised a major shakeup with staffing at the FDA. So a lot of reaction still coming into this decision, Joe.
Yeah, and some of those officials might even leave the agency. They're that concerned. All right, let's talk about some of the other picks. Earlier in the week, Mr. Trump named Matt Gaetz as his pick for Attorney General. We understand the Senate GOP is looking to thoroughly vet the now former Florida congressman. There are these questions also about whether the House Ethics Committee investigation into Gaetz is ever going to see the light of day. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, well, we saw now, as you mentioned, former Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz resign his position yesterday. And in the process, this House ethics probe has been halted, a probe into allegations of inappropriate sexual conduct, illicit drug use, as well as inappropriately accepting gifts. And by the way, that is separate from a since closed federal probe into Gaetz that he has denied all allegations of, and no charges were filed. But now there are concerns by these senators that are going to be in charge of his confirmation process, whether those documents and those records involved in the House ethics probes will be made available to them to better prepare them for this confirmation process. Some of them openly calling for those documents to be shared with them. It seems that that could happen since there's a precedent here. There have been documents involved in past lawmakers who've been involved in these probes who have had documents shared as far as their confirmation hearings. But at this point, no formal announcement has been made for that decision.
All right, Allie, another announcement made by the president-elect naming his own criminal defense lawyer, Todd Blanche, to be the deputy attorney general. Of course, he represented Mr. Trump in the hush money trial here in New York, where Mr. Trump was convicted on all 34 counts against him. Why was he named to be number 2 in the Justice Department?
Yeah, but we heard the president-elect talk a little bit about his decision-making process in this statement announcing this pick of Todd Blanche. He said in this statement, quote, Todd is an excellent attorney who will be a crucial leader in the Justice Department, fixing what has been a broken system of justice for far too long. And of course, this is following this pattern of the president-elect picking these loyalists to him for these cabinet positions, but especially in these positions within the Department of Justice. And there are also some who are thinking that this pick could be sort of a safety net for a case in which maybe Matt Gaetz is not confirmed by the Senate, in which Todd Blanche would then succeed him as Attorney General, Joe.
And that's going to be all, Allie. So much to cover. We appreciate you running through it for us. Thank you so much. President-elect Trump's cabinet picks are sending shockwaves across Washington, especially among lawmakers in his own party, as they prepare to vet Mr. Trump's choice for Attorney General. Some Senate Republicans are calling for the House Ethics Committee to release details of that now abandoned investigation into Matt Gaetz. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles explains.
Yeah, Joe, good morning. There is certainly a degree of skepticism around the appointment of several of President-elect Trump's cabinet picks, but most especially his pick for Attorney General Matt Gaetz. And there are many senators who are going to be voting on his confirmation that would like to see the information that's contained in a House ethics report from an investigation that's been going on for quite some time in the House of Representatives. But there's no guarantee that information will ever emerge. The House Ethics Committee was set to meet on Friday. The agenda contained a conversation about what to do about this report, but we're told that meeting has been canceled. And if the House Ethics Committee doesn't meet and make a decision, there is the real possibility that this ethics report never sees the light of day. Now, part of the problem here is that Matt Gaetz resigned from Congress. That means the House Ethics Committee no longer has jurisdiction over him. He is a private citizen. So as a result, they may not have the power to release this report. Now, there is precedent. It has been done before where Ethics Committee reports have been released after a member has left office. But this is a toxic situation. It could be difficult for House Republicans to buck President-elect Trump and release a report that could be damaging to one of his most important cabinet picks. Regardless, many of the senators that we talked to yesterday were confident that even if they don't get the report itself, they'll get the evidence and the information that was contained in that report through their own investigation, through an FBI background check, and perhaps even getting the information from the House itself. Regardless, this is going to be a difficult slog for Matt Gaetz. This is a priority for President-elect Trump. And even though there are a number of skeptical Senate Republicans, not one has said that they will vote against his confirmation. So at this point, the transition is moving forward with the potential of Matt Gaetz as the next attorney general. And that's just one of a number of controversial picks by President-elect Trump. Joe?
Ryan, thank you. As political observers continue to unpack last week's election results, so was NBC's Steve Kornacki. Way back in December of last year, NBC News named 7 counties in battleground states with the potential to have a major impact on this past election. In 2020, some of them went for President Biden, some for President-elect Trump. Well, now that the polls are closed this morning, we're taking a look at how it all played out. In all 7 of the decider counties, Mr. Trump gained ground en route to his national victory. Steve's at the big board with a look at how it all played out.
When the campaign started, we introduced you to these 7 counties. We called them the deciders. These are counties with some specific demographic traits, characteristics, regional characteristics. And we said we're going to be important to deciding how the election turned out nationally. So everything is over right now. Let's check back in and see what did the decider counties tell us. How did they help decide this election? So start just here, Erie County, Pennsylvania. We told you this was the ultimate swing county, a bellwether. See in northwest Pennsylvania there, 2016, Erie went for Donald Trump. Donald Trump won Pennsylvania. 2020, Erie flipped to Joe Biden. Pennsylvania flipped to Joe Biden. I think you see where this one is going. In 2024, Erie back in Donald Trump's column. Pennsylvania back in Donald Trump's column. Also, a couple other bellwethers we identified in Arizona. There's Maricopa County. That's the motherlode. More than 60% of all the votes in the state of Arizona just coming from Maricopa. It's Phoenix. It's the massive, sprawling Phoenix suburbs. 4 years ago, when Joe Biden had won Arizona, he won it by about this much. He became the first Democrat in 72 years to carry Maricopa. This time around, it flips back to Trump. Arizona flips back to Trump. We also said Washoe County in Nevada. This is where Reno is. We said this identified as a bellwether, too. There's 2 big population centers in Nevada. The major one is here, Las Vegas, Clark County. But Washoe County is the other biggie. Again, Reno in that area. And it's typically been the more swingy of these counties. The interesting thing that happened in Washoe is Trump made a pretty big jump here, but he didn't quite win it. So Trump's actually going to lose Washoe County, and he's actually going to lose Clark County. That's expected. The Democrats usually win there. But he kept the margin low enough in Washoe that just massive, massive support in those small rural counties between those 2 big cities carries Trump in Nevada. Also, take a look here in Michigan. This is Kent County. What's there? The city of Grand Rapids, kind of the anchor of that region of western Michigan. We said to watch that because it's a traditionally Republican area, but the Republican voters there hadn't really taken well to Trump. He'd underperformed as a Republican. Was that going to get worse for him? Well, it didn't get much better, but it didn't get worse. That's the headline from Kent County. Trump did actually a point better there. And again, he flipped Michigan. The fact that he didn't lose more ground and actually gained back just a little bit there, it amounted to a very big win for him. Now, let's go a closer look here at the other 3 that are left on the board. You see Miami-Dade, Gwinnett in Georgia, and then Dane County in Wisconsin. I just want to show you what happened. I'm going to zoom out of Michigan for a second and going to go down to Florida and show you Miami-Dade. Remember, not that long ago, we were talking about Florida as a swing state. It wasn't this time around. Trump ends up winning Florida by double digits. Look what's happened. This is a big reason why. There's almost 3 million people in Miami-Dade County. It's a 70% Hispanic county. Look, in 2016, Clinton won this. Hillary did by almost 30 points over Trump. He brought it all the way down, Trump did, to a 7-point gap in 2020. And now a double-digit win for Trump in Miami-Dade County. That's a shift of more than 40 points since Donald Trump came on the scene in his direction. Big reason Florida's off the map now when we talk about swing states. Also, we said, take a look here in Georgia. Let me go north to Georgia. The big Atlanta suburbs here. Gwinnett County was our decider county. Harris did win here. She won here comfortably. Let me just show you, though, compared to Biden 4 years ago, and really turn back the clock here compared to Clinton in 2016. This thing has been trending Democratic. More than 1 million people in Gwinnett County. Look, from Clinton by 6, Biden tripled that to 18 points. It actually came down a tick. Why did it come down a tick? Trump's support with Hispanic voters. When you look at the heavily Hispanic precincts in Gwinnett County, and there's a large Hispanic population there, largest of anywhere in the Atlanta metro area, Trump actually posted some real improvements there. It actually kept him from losing more ground in Gwinnett, actually gaining ground there. Very important to him carrying Georgia. And then we'll land in Wisconsin. Again, another state Trump carried very narrowly here. You see under 30,000 votes. Dane County, huge Democratic county, University of Wisconsin, the state capital, Madison. Why did we identify this? Because what's been happening in Wisconsin, we've been seeing nationally, the Democrat support has been geographically contracting. They're losing ground all over the country in blue-collar, rural areas. It makes it more and more important for them to run up the score in places like Dane County. Big, population dense, high concentration of college degrees. So Harris did win here overwhelmingly. Her margin, 188,000 votes. And this is the key. That was an improvement from 4 years ago. The margin then, you could see Biden over Trump for Democrats was about 181,000. But given all of the losses Democrats continue to suffer throughout the vast majority of Wisconsin geographically, those blue-collar areas, she needed to run this number up much higher to offset that. So the story in Dane was, overwhelmingly Democratic. We were asking, was it going to be overwhelmingly Democratic enough for them? And the answer, no.
All right, Steve, thank you so much. More red flag warnings and fire watches have been issued for the Northeast as we head into the weekend. For more on that, let's get a look at your morning news now weather with Angie Lassman. Angie, good morning.
Hi, Joe. Good morning to you. Same old song and dance when it comes to all the ingredients there that concern us for fires to start and fires to spread quickly across the Northeast. We did see the winds weaken a little bit yesterday, but they are right back up to being gusty here through this region today. We've got 42 million people under these fire alerts. Where you see that orange, those are elevated fire risks that are in effect, and where the brighter pink is, that's the more concerning red flag warning that is going to be in effect. Now, we still got the dry conditions as far as the vegetation and such goes with that ongoing drought, but we've also got dry air in place, and this means that our relative humidity values, so the measure of moisture in the atmosphere, is quite low. We're talking 10% across areas like Boston and Hartford. We don't have that much moisture to tap into in the air, and that's going to be something that stays with us at least through tomorrow. On top of that, as I mentioned, those winds have come up slightly. So northwesterly winds, that's partially why our air is so dry, ushering in that those cooler, drier conditions, plus winds coming to about 23, 25, up to 30 miles per hour across this area. So again, not hard for those fires to start and then spread. This will last through at least the weekend. Switching gears, talking tropics. We've got Tropical Storm Sarah, winds at 50 miles per hour. So they've come up a touch, sitting just to the east of Honduras. So this is going to be where we kind of see this system hang out, hugging the coastline, at least for the next day or so. It'll spend a little time over those Caribbean waters, and then it makes its way onshore for the Yucatan Peninsula. Now, that interaction with land, that's going to be important because we'll expect this system to likely dissipate by the time we get into early next week. We'll still keep a close eye on it, and it still is going to dump heavy rain, cause problems for landslides and mudslides for folks across Central America, so it will be impactful for them. Meanwhile, out west, more rain, more snow. That's where all the rain and snow has been, across the Sierra Mountains and the Great Basin. That's where we'll pick up some additional amounts here through the day today, and then we really ramp things up with our next storm system that arrives tomorrow. This is going to bring, again, heavy rain and heavy snow for folks there. Big picture look for your Saturday, great through the midsection of the country, still dealing with the fire risks, so don't forget about that. But as we look ahead to Sunday, those nice conditions stay with us for most of the country, especially the eastern half, but we will watch a couple of chances for some severe storms across Texas and parts of the southern plains, and those stormy conditions to last out west.
I will take mild fall highs.
Me too. Get out there. There's going to be plenty of sunshine. It'll be nice to enjoy it there.
Very cool. Thank you, Angie. Appreciate it. Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, a real-life Onion headline. The satirical paper saying it is buying Alex Jones' far-right conspiracy theory site InfoWars in a bankruptcy auction. More on the move and why it may not be a done deal just yet. Up first after the break, a suspected terrorist under arrest. Now the FBI says it stopped a man planning to carry out a 9/11 style attack. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The FBI says it stopped a potential terrorist threat in Houston yesterday. The suspect is now in custody. He allegedly told authorities he was going to carry out a 9/11 style attack if he had the resources. He also made specific threats against the Jewish community and some members of the military. NBC News correspondent Stephanie Gosk has the details.
The FBI says they've stopped a possible terrorist attack in Houston.
We've taken a suspected terrorist off the streets of Houston, Texas.
According to the FBI, after his arrest on November 8th, Anas Saeed told federal agents about his plans to commit violence in the United States, including researching the layout and security at Jewish-related locations, such as synagogues, and expressing the desire to use an explosive belt.
He bragged that he would commit a 9/11-style attack if he only had the resources.
Agents say Saeed also told them he considered attacking members of the military if they supported Israel or if they had been deployed to Afghanistan or Iraq and killed Muslims there. He allegedly said those are the persons he would kill. According to court documents, Saeed admitted to federal agents that he created videos and images that glorified ISIS's violent attacks and tried several times to travel to join ISIS. The 28-year-old is charged with attempting to provide material support to ISIS. He's pleaded not guilty.
FBI agents have interviewed Saeed multiple times since he came to our attention in 2017. However, due to the October 7, 2023 Hamas attacks on Israel, Saeed's behavior began to mobilize towards violence.
Saeed's arrest comes just a month after a man originally from Afghanistan living in Oklahoma was arrested for an alleged plot to carry out an attack on Election Day on behalf of ISIS. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
Turning to international news, the situation in Haiti is getting worse, fueled by gang violence and political turmoil. Residents are now fleeing their homes in the nation's capital, fearing for their lives. Earlier this week, the FAA banned U.S. flights to the country for 30 days after multiple commercial airliners were hit by gunfire. That ban is now posing a threat to civilians who rely on nonprofit aid from abroad. NBC News correspondent Marissa Parra has the latest.
In Port-au-Prince, masses of Haitians are fleeing to safety, seen frantically packing their lives into cars, escaping what had once been considered one of the few areas in the capital safe from gang violence until now. Nonprofits like Agape Haiti are left unable to fly aid in.
There's a massive concern. We've got 20,000 pounds of supplies sitting on the floor that need to move.
It goes from here. It was days ago when a Spirit Airlines plane was struck by bullets 7 times as it was preparing to land in Port-au-Prince Monday, instead diverting to the Dominican Republic, leaving one flight attendant hurt and the dozens others on board terrified.
The crew was very traumatized.
The FAA the next day pausing all civil U.S. flights to Haiti for a month, while Haiti's capital city weathers a week of violence amid political instability. It's been 3 years since Haitian President Jovenel Moïse was assassinated and almost 7 months since Ariel Henry resigned as prime minister, leaving behind a vacuum of power. Gangs have been violently fighting for control ever since. The Transitional Council fired the interim prime minister Sunday. And on Monday, as Alex Didier Filami was being sworn in as the new prime minister, the State Department said gang-led efforts that erupted that day led to violent disruptions to airports, seaports, and roads.
Everyone is very scared. Everyone is very concerned. And I think everyone is tired of the situation.
Christophe Gurney from Doctors Without Borders says an ambulance of theirs was ambushed on Monday. The charity says vigilantes violently attacked the ambulance as 3 young people were being rushed to the hospital for gunshot wounds. 2 of them instead executed just outside the hospital, waiting to treat them, with volunteers and workers nearby.
They are traumatized, shocked. It's really the first time MSF staff is directly assaulted or aggressed by anyone in IT, and this is very shocking for us.
The aftermath of the violence left Port-au-Prince paralyzed. Offices, schools closed, and with 1 in 2 Haitians facing acute hunger, any pause in aid to the country could be devastating.
If we really have to stop or to stand by our activity, it will be a huge disaster for the civilians here.
Haiti hasn't seen a presidential election in years. The embattled Transitional Council was created to restore democracy, but trust in the council is razor thin as violence wears on. The UN reports close to 3,700 people have been killed from the violence since January.
All right, Marissa, thank you so much. Back to politics now. A second Trump presidency will have wide domestic and international implications. In his first term, President-elect Trump tried to thaw the icy ties between the United States and North Korea. That led to a roller coaster relationship between Mr. Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. That included face-to-face meetings, flattering letters, and insults from both sides. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer takes a look at what a second Trump term could mean for the U.S., North Korea, and China.
Joe, one of the more challenging foreign policy issues facing any U.S. president is North Korea. And while President-elect Trump has said that Kim Jong-un misses him, it isn't clear whether that is the case, given Kim is now emboldened and no longer alone.
Donald Trump has long touted his personal touch with leaders like Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, and Kim Jong-un.
You know, I got to know a lot of the foreign leaders, and let me tell you, unlike our leader, they're at the top of their game.
But in his second presidency, it's a different world Trump is facing, with U.S. officials saying thousands of North Korean troops are preparing to fight with Russian forces in Kursk, North Korean weapons already on the battlefield, and more nuclear-capable missiles being tested. South Korea's military intelligence agency also warned last month that a seventh nuclear test could be coming. Kim Jong-un has been emboldened by the prestige of his strategic ties to Russia that have hardened his stance against the U.S. It's a pivot from the optics of Trump's first term, when it was all smiles, flattery, and letters.
And we'll go back and forth, and then we fell in love, okay?
That took a turn in 2019 when Trump, at a summit in Hanoi, abruptly broke off talks with Kim. Now that he's tight with Putin, analysts say Kim may not be quick to rekindle a friendship with Trump.
The strategic value of the United States for Pyongyang has gone down considerably. North Korea has no reason to talk about denuclearization. Any talks that are premised on denuclearization, Kim Jong-un has no reason to show up.
Tension is also now tearing at the Korean Peninsula, where in the last year Kim has called off the goal of unification, even blowing up roads near the border and declaring Seoul a permanent enemy. It's all a concern here in China that North Korean troops could expand the war in Europe and pull Asia into it. Chinese officials avoid commenting on the Putin-Kim partnership, saying their bilateral relationship is their business. Yet, as the economic lifeline to both Russia and North Korea, China has the clout. They're just not using it, despite pressure from the U.S. to do more.
Obviously, we would hope that China would use its influence, it doesn't appear that they are, with the Russian government to cease and desist. But I don't think that's happening. It's unfortunate.
In that sense, China presents a dilemma for Trump, who said he could end the war in Ukraine, but may find the road to a deal goes through Beijing.
There are so many things that need China, U.S. to cooperate. Yeah, it is almost in everything, everywhere.
As Trump makes his return to the world stage, he'll be surrounded by familiar faces. But with Kim's nuclear advances and his troops aiding Russia against U.S.-armed Ukraine, the stakes for Trump's second term are edging higher.
Given the uncertainty lingering around continued U.S. support for Ukraine, analysts in Seoul say the government there is now reconsidering sending weapons to Kyiv until there's some clarity on what the new Trump administration is going to do in Ukraine. In the meantime, the office of South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol confirms that he recently started practicing golf to prepare for future meetings with Trump. Joe?
Janice Mackey-Frayer, thank you so much. More international headlines now. China just opened a massive port in Peru in a bid to expand trade in Latin America. NBC's Matt Bodner has that and some other world headlines. Matt, good morning.
Joe, good morning. Xi's first stop on his South American tour is Peru, where he's inaugurating a massive deep-water port. China has invested $1.3 billion into this project, which Xi is calling a 21st century maritime Silk Road. The port is meant to facilitate increased trade between China and the nations of South America. Xi will stay in Peru for a few days, where he's to participate in the upcoming APEC summit in Lima. He will then move on to Brazil next week for a state visit and also to attend the G20 summit in Rio de Janeiro. Moving along now to Sri Lanka, parliamentary elections have seen the Marxist-leaning National People's Power Party win 2/3 of the national legislature. The party is led by the new president, Anura Kumara Dissanayake, and they now control 159 of the parliament's 225 seats. Second place has gone to the opposition United People's Power Party. For context, Sri Lanka is currently trying to pull itself out of a dire economic crisis. The country did declare bankruptcy in 2022. These elections will give Dissanayake a broad mandate to pursue economic reforms. We'll wrap things up in New Zealand. Parliament was temporarily suspended on Thursday as Maori lawmakers staged the traditional haka war dance in protest of a bill that would reinterpret the country's founding document. That document is the Treaty of Waitangi, signed by Maori chiefs with the British Crown in 1840. It gives special status to the indigenous people of New Zealand. A right-wing coalition is trying to rework that arrangement, calling for equal rights for all citizens of New Zealand. Maori make up about 20% of New Zealand's population, and the proposal has drawn protests across the nation. Joe?
All right, Matt, thank you so much. Coming up, a crisis of care in our maternity wards. Premature births at a historic high for the third straight year. When we come back, what's behind the problem and who is most affected? And on this Transgender Awareness Week, we're going to talk about the challenges facing the trans community today and why showing support for the community is more important than ever. This is Morning News Now. We are back with a troubling new report from the March of Dimes. It shows that preterm birth rates in the U.S. are at a historic high for the third year in a row. The report was released Thursday. It says more than 370,000 babies were born premature last year. It's when a baby is born before 37 weeks. The report says some of the key factors fueling these preterm births are related to chronic health conditions, climate change, inadequate prenatal care in some parts of the country, and racial disparities. Dr. Lucky Seacon is here with more on this maternity care crisis. She's a double board certified OBGYN at the Fertility Center, RMA of New York. Good to have you with us. I just listed some of these contributing factors here, but talk about how they can impact these premature births.
Yes, so there are women with chronic conditions, as you said, like high blood pressure, diabetes, infections, as well as certain behaviors like smoking. We know that these are real risk factors for preterm delivery. But there are also major socioeconomic factors that contribute to lack of access to prenatal care, like being uninsured. Environmental factors, as you said, 40% of Americans are exposed to extreme heat when you think about climate, and 3/4 of Americans that are pregnant are dealing with low quality air in their area.
When we talk about premature births, what is the risk for the mom and the baby?
Yes, so mothers who are dealing with preterm delivery and caring for preemies often are at higher risk of postpartum depression. The babies themselves can have a wide array of risks that they're facing, especially respiratory complications. My brother was actually born at 26 weeks and spent the first 5 years of his life in and out of the hospital. So there can be many problems like vision, auditory, as well as learning disabilities. And this is a drain emotionally and financially, not only on the families, but on the system, because many of these babies are going to spend time in the neonatal ICU.
Prenatal care is especially a problem in southern states where preterm births are higher. What's going on in these areas?
Right. So there are certain challenges unique to these populations, especially people living in rural areas. There's this concept of healthcare deserts, and this has been made worse by changes like abortion bans, because this is leading to a reluctance on the part of OBGYNs for setting up their practice in certain areas where the law is going to infringe on their ability to deliver the full spectrum of reproductive care. There's also a higher proportion of uninsured patients in these areas, and that means that prenatal care often falls to the wayside.
So if you live in one of these areas and there is limited maternity care, what are your options?
Yes. So these are situations where we need community-based programs that facilitate people accessing telehealth and having the infrastructure to do so, mobile clinics, remote monitoring, so that patients don't have to travel hours and hours to get to their healthcare provider, and that this can help close some of the prenatal care gaps that we see.
Here's something else that was in this report. It found maternal and infant mortality rates are going up. They're even higher among Black and American Indian, Alaskan Native communities.
Right.
Why is that?
Well, we know that marginalized groups in society face systemic inequities, and there are social determinants of health care, things that people don't always connect to accessing health care, like access to transportation, being able to meet your basic needs, housing instability, economic instability. Those are all reasons why people are not prioritizing seeing their doctor, even if they're pregnant.
Policy is important. Are there things we can do to try and turn things around?
Yes, we need more healthcare funding. We need to raise awareness and have these conversations and improve education surrounding the importance of prenatal care. And we really need to find ways to close these healthcare gaps by bolstering these community programs that we were talking about.
All right, this is an incredibly important conversation, Dr. Lucky Seacon. Good to have you with us. Thanks for joining us this morning. Welcome back. President-elect Trump's return to the White House is now raising conflict of interest concerns over his business empire. NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung has more on the ethical questions facing the Trump Organization and his media company, Truth Social.
On the campaign trail, President-elect Donald Trump pushed Bibles, sneakers, and even his own cryptocurrency.
Crypto is the future.
But as he readies for the White House, it's his social media company that's raising eyebrows for potential conflicts of interest. Truth Social is the mainstay of the Trump Media and Technology Group, trading under the ticker DJT since March this year. According to its earnings statement, the company lost more than $19 million in the last quarter, but its valuation, more than $5 billion, and a majority of it owned by Trump.
Is there a precedent for a president-elect coming into office with 115 million shares in a publicly traded company?
Well, there is no precedent. We already sort of ran this movie, but on a smaller scale the first time around, and now we're just going to see it on a much larger scale.
Trump already had a web of business dealings during his first term. While he handed over control of the Trump Organization to his sons, he continued to own it with its hotels, resorts, and golf courses. But what he didn't have, a social media platform competing against big tech companies, worrying some ethics experts.
If you've got a direct financial stake in that and you have a lot of sway and influence over what's going to happen there in terms of regulation, then I think it's pretty clear why that's a significant conflict of interest problem.
But Trump doesn't have to divest. While it's illegal for executive branch employees to work on government matters that will affect their own personal financial interest, it does not apply to the president or vice president. One rule that Trump does have to play by, the emoluments clause in the Constitution, which prevents government officials, including the president, from financially benefiting from foreign governments. Something that Richard Painter, a Bush White House ethics lawyer who has been a vocal critic of Trump, alleges he already did.
There was substantial evidence that the Trump Organization did profit from transactions with foreign governments during the first Trump term.
Painter helped bring an emoluments lawsuit from a nonprofit alleging more than 3,400 conflicts of interest. Congressional Democrats and Maryland and D.C. sued Trump too. But a federal appeals court dismissed the Democrats' lawsuit in 2020, saying they lacked legal standing to sue the president. Then the Supreme Court ended the other lawsuits, saying they were moot because Trump was no longer in office. Now, DJT stock brings another potential avenue for foreign investment that could trigger scrutiny.
If a foreign government were to buy a substantial block of stock and in effect be in a business partnership with Donald Trump, that could be a serious problem.
I, Jimmy Carter, do solemnly swear.
Previous presidents like Jimmy Carter chose to avoid any problems by divesting. In Carter's case, from his peanut farm. But Trump's holdings, not just peanuts. Trump's transition team responding to our request for comment, saying in part, President Trump removed himself from his multi-billion-dollar empire to run for office and forwent his government's salary. Adding President Trump didn't get into politics for profit. Trump himself insists he has no intention of selling his shares of DJT, the stock bearing the president-elect's own name, a legal and ethical conundrum.
All right, thanks to Brian Chung for that report. President-elect Trump owns nearly half of the Trump Media Technology Group, the parent company of Truth Social. Mr. Trump's stake in the media company is currently valued at roughly $3.8 billion. More money news now. Amazon recently met with the House China Committee to discuss concerns over its shopping partnership with TikTok. CNBC's Savannah Henao has that and some other money news. Savannah, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yes, so as you just mentioned, Amazon, which recently met with the House China Committee to discuss lawmakers' concerns over the company's partnership with TikTok. Now, a committee spokesperson confirming the meeting to CNBC, and their concerns center on a shopping deal between Amazon and TikTok, which lets users link their accounts and buy items without leaving the app. Now, TikTok is owned by China's ByteDance, which has been called a national security threat. President Biden signed a law requiring ByteDance to sell TikTok by mid-January or be banned from operating in the U.S. It's no joke. The Onion is buying InfoWars, the right-wing conspiracy site owned by Alex Jones. The satirical news publication says it won a bankruptcy court auction for an undisclosed price and has the support of families of victims of the school shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary. Now, they secured a $1.4 billion defamation verdict against Jones. The Onion plans to launch a new platform for InfoWars in a partnership with Everytown for gun safety. In a video on X, Jones says he will seek an injunction to block the sale. The AP says the bankruptcy judge has ordered a hearing on the sale process. And the world's largest producer of olive oil says prices for liquid gold are on pace to fall by as much as half from record levels. Spain's De Oleo makes brands such as Bertolli and Carbonell. A long period of extreme weather and drought in southern Europe has severely impacted olive harvests in recent years, resulting in a price spike. But prices have cooled about 35% since January as harvests are set to improve in major producers such as Spain, Greece, and Tunisia. Joe.
All right, Savannah, thank you so much. Yeah. Coming up, something good is happening in Oz. That's right, just one short week to the highly anticipated Wicked movie. Already it's proving to be very popular. We're going to take you down the yellow brick road for more on the hype behind the film. Stay with us. This is Morning News Now. We are 3 days into Transgender Awareness Week, which started Wednesday and goes through next Tuesday. It's a way for the trans community and its allies to join together and show support for one another and help increase understanding about transgender people and the issues they face. Even in the midst of a wave of new laws challenging trans rights and a hostile political climate, 89% of non-LGBTQ+ Americans believe that those within the LGBTQ+ community should be able to live their lives free of discrimination. Yet that is often far from their reality. Raquel Willis joins me now with more on this. She's the co-founder of the Gender Liberation Movement. Raquel, always good to have you with us. Thank you for your time this morning. I mean, just first of all, talk about Transgender Awareness Week and why it's so important.
Yes, well, thank you for having me on. Obviously, Trans Awareness Week is so important because we know that there are still so many folks who don't know that trans people exist. As we saw in this recent presidential election season, there was a lot of disinformation about the trans community, particularly from the incoming Trump administration. And so this is particularly important this year that people know that trans folks are out here. Trans folks have been contributing to society for generations. And also we need to lighten up on this discrimination and violence that is out here.
You mentioned the election, so let's talk more about this. LGBTQ rights, specifically trans rights, have been a focal point this last election cycle, with Republicans running a number of anti-trans ads across the country. Let's look at the numbers. In the last 2 years alone, more than 100 state laws have been passed aimed at restricting trans rights around health care, youth sports, and just other legislation targeting the livelihoods of the LGBTQ+ community. So what do you say to people who feel their voices weren't heard in this election, or those who are scared they could lose even more rights in the coming years?
Well, we definitely have a bit of an idea of what to expect in terms of the Trump administration. We know that Project 2025 has a lot of not so great things targeting the trans community, particularly wanting to strip any discussion of gender identity or sexual orientation, any of the complexities of life out of discussion, but also out of data collection and so much more. We could expect to see an increase in anti-trans bills for folks across ages. So it's really important important for folks to understand that we have to tighten up in this moment. We have to make sure that our communities come together. We have to make sure that folks are funding the movement. We know that there may be a tax on any funds going to trans advocacy groups, and just make sure that we also just prioritize people's safety and security. So those are the things that I'm really hoping people pay attention to in the upcoming months. And again, just remember, trans folks are your neighbors. We're part of your families. We're in workplaces. We're everywhere, right? So just make sure that you're making all of those spaces safe and affirming for everyone.
And with that in mind, that's such a good message. We have like 30 seconds left here, but what's the most important thing that folks can do to show support to trans people and to be an ally, especially right now?
Yeah, right now. I mean, I think it's really about having those conversations. Anytime you hear any disinformation or ignorance about the community, make sure that you correct it on the spot. Again, if you're in a position of power in any institution, make sure that that space is, again, affirming of folks. And make sure that you fund, again, the movement. There are a lot of grassroots organizations. I'm a part of one called Gender Lib that's all about political education around gender, and so much more. So those are the key things I would say for folks right now.
All right. Raquel Willis, always good to have you with us. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Finally, this hour, we're just 1 week away from one of the biggest movie events of the year. Part 1 of Wicked from NBC's sister company Universal Pictures hits theaters next Friday, and the buzz is building.
It's the newest chapter of a beloved prequel. A movie version of Wicked, the story of Oz before Dorothy dropped in.
You're beautiful.
When an unlikely friendship was forged between Elphaba, the green-skinned girl who would become the Wicked Witch of the West, and Glinda the Good.
Just come with me. I couldn't possibly. This is your moment. I'm coming.
They're played by Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande.
It's an extraordinary privilege to be trusted with these roles and to have earned them. So I think the thing that was most important to us all along was finding that balance between honoring the source material while also, in a way, forgetting it and bringing our own new truths to it.
The thing that we're very grateful for is that those wonderful fans like ourselves have, bit by bit, as people start to see it, are just, embracing all the new things that we've brought to it.
Wicked was a hit novel published nearly 30 years ago. That book inspired a musical that after 2 decades is still defying gravity on Broadway. Now those iconic songs are mixed with movie magic, dancing through life, giving us a new route to the Emerald City.
Who are you, and why do you seek me?
Excitement's building.
Everyone was just amazing.
For another trip down the yellow brick road via the silver screen.
I absolutely cannot wait. A reminder, this will be part 1. Part 2 will come a year from now. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now, but don't go anywhere. The news continues right now. Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm Joe Fryer. Savannah is on assignment today. Right now on Morning News Now, another controversial administration pick from President-elect Donald Trump sending shockwaves through Washington. Mr. Trump tapping staunch supporter and anti-vax activist RFK Jr. to shape the nation's health strategy as HHS secretary. But more on the strong reaction and what Kennedy's leadership might mean for the future of medicine in America. Also this morning, a dangerous dry spell gripping the nation's largest city as the deadly Jennings Creek fire rages on. Smoke seen over Manhattan billowing from a brush fire in one neighborhood park. NYC grappling with a historic drought. Mother Nature is not letting up just yet. How high winds could make it all the more difficult for emergency crews to fight the flames. Plus, an urgent health alert as we head into the busy holiday season. What experts say is behind a concerning rise in whooping cough cases nationwide. What parents need to know to help keep their homes healthy. And if it's Friday, we've got a full rundown of the latest and greatest from the world of entertainment. Everything you simply can't miss this week. We begin this hour with the fast-moving transition of President-elect Trump. His recent picks for cabinet positions and other high-profile roles are eliciting strong reactions in Washington and beyond. That includes his choice of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an environmental lawyer and anti-vaccine activist, to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander has the latest on the Trump transition.
Good morning to you guys. President-elect Trump overnight announcing his latest cabinet pick, Republican rival turned supporter Doug Burgum, North Dakota's governor, for Interior Secretary. And it does come as many Senate Democrats quickly condemn Trump's selection of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to oversee everything from drug, vaccine, and food safety to health insurance for millions of Americans. One Democrat calling him a fringe conspiracy theorist, but a Senate Republican is praising the pick of Kennedy, calling him a courageous truth teller. President-elect Trump overnight hosting allies and his transition team at Mar-a-Lago.
We're going to turn our country around.
Praising one choice that's causing controversy.
RFK Jr., Bobby.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr., an environmental lawyer and anti-vaccine activist, as the head of Health and Human Services.
People like you, Bobby. Don't get too popular, Bobby.
Kennedy on social media saying he's committed to advancing Trump's vision to make America healthy again. An outcast from one of the most famous families in American politics, Kennedy endorsed Trump after ending his third-party presidential bid, with Trump teasing a potential role in his administration.
I'm going to let him go wild on health.
Kennedy's record is already under the microscope. Kennedy says he's not against vaccines.
Oh, I'm not going to take away anybody's vaccines. I've never been anti-vaccine.
In fact, he's frequently pushed misleading and false claims about vaccines.
There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective.
Raising eyebrows last year with a false conspiracy theory that COVID was designed to target certain ethnicities.
COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people. The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese.
He's also shared conspiracy theories that pesticides and plastic could be affecting children's sexuality. Now, Kennedy's previewed some actions Trump may take, including advising all U.S. water systems to remove fluoride, that experts say is a public health benefit. Kennedy also won popularity by focusing on nutrition and promising an overhaul of the FDA. In October, singling out what he called the agency's suppression of psychedelics, raw milk, clean foods, sunshine, and anything else that advances human health. Some of Trump's other picks also facing new scrutiny, including Pete Hegseth, his choice for defense secretary. Overnight, officials in Monterey, California, releasing information from a police report confirming that Hegseth was involved in a sexual assault investigation in 2017. It's unclear what Hegseth's involvement was in the investigation. The Trump transition team saying Hegseth has vigorously denied any and all accusations and no charges were filed. On another highly controversial pick now, former Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz for Attorney General, a Senate Republican, says that there could already be enough opposition in the Senate to sink his nomination. But Trump has made very clear that he wants what are called recess appointments for some of these picks that would allow them to serve for almost 2 years without any Senate vote. And overnight, the newly elected Senate Majority Leader, the Senate's top Republican, John Thune, did not rule that out, saying all options are on the table. Back to you.
All right, Peter, thank you. Let's bring in NBC News senior reporter Brandy Zadrozny for more on President-elect Trump's decision to pick Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead health agencies. Good to have you with us. It was just last week RFK Jr. told Arvon Hilliard he's not looking to take away anyone's vaccines. If he's confirmed, what could he do?
He's a lawyer, and he has a way of saying things sometimes. I'm not taking away anyone's vaccines, but what would he do as head of HHS? Well, he could do a lot. The first thing he says he's going to do is he's going to get someone to look at all the data. And the head of the transition team said on CNN the other day what that would look like is to specifically look at the data so he can show that vaccines are unsafe. That's what Lutnick said. So he has an agenda in mind, and he's been very clear about this agenda for the last 10 years, since 2015, when he started this group, Children's Health Defense, which is the world's largest anti-vaccine organization. He wants to prove that vaccines are unsafe. He believes that vaccines and pesticides are responsible for all of the world's maladies, all of the children's health maladies, from autism to asthma. And so this is his agenda, to figure out this grand conspiracy theory and get under the hood.
And to be clear, this flies in the face of what just conventional medicine tells us,
Every
right?
bit of it. Every bit of it. You know, I talked to public health officials yesterday. My phone was ringing off the hook. And so here's what some of them say, right? Mandy Cohen, director of the CDC, called it concerning. She said she doesn't want to go backwards. She said children and adults are going to suffer or lose their lives to remind us that vaccines work. People said they were, a former director of the CDC, Richard Besser, told our colleague they were speechless. Paul Offit, who's a professor of pediatrics at the University of Pennsylvania, he told me that he was shocked, and he said, I can't believe that people knowing who he is and what he said would ever put him in a position of authority. It's like Typhoid Mary being in charge of food safety.
Wow, that's a statement right there. I have to say, on Election Day, I was in Wisconsin. I was talking to voters, and I talked to a man who had always voted for Trump. And this time around, he said, I voted for Kamala Harris. And he said it had nothing to do with Trump. He said he was worried about who Trump was thinking of bringing into his cabinet. And he specifically mentioned Elon Musk and RFK Jr. So there were voters out there who realized this was a possibility. On the flip side, you have people who are anti-vaccine. What have been some of their reactions to this pick? What are you seeing online?
Absolute elation.
Yeah.
You know, right after the election, people, again, in Robert F. Kennedy's group, Children's Health Defense, they have a morning show. They went on and they said, you know, this is the opportunity that they were looking for, that they were hoping for. Robert F. Kennedy was always a long shot candidate. He was never going to win the presidency. Every expert, every Politico said. What he could do, though, and what I warned about in my profile from 2013, was that he wanted to give his mission legitimacy. He wanted to bring legitimacy to the anti-vaccination movement, and that's exactly what's happening here.
And you are an expert in disinformation. This is a reminder, information matters.
Indeed.
All right, Brandy Zadrozny, appreciate your reporting. Thank you. As President-elect Trump continues to build out his administration, one man now appears to have a big say in the government's affairs. Billionaire Elon Musk has been by Mr. Trump's side following the election and was tapped to jointly lead the new Department of Government Efficiency. NBC News correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us now with a closer look at Musk's influence on the incoming president. Ryan, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. And Elon Musk will not be a federal employee. Instead, he's tasked with running an outside effort to offer suggestions to make government more efficient. And already it's clear he's becoming one of Donald Trump's most trusted advisors, a situation that brings with it potential conflicts. President Donald Trump is all in on Elon Musk.
You know, I'm a person that believes in high IQs, and his is about as high as they get.
The world's richest man betting big on his fellow billionaire. And offering up his help to correct the economic direction of the country.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Musk is making his presence known in Trump world. Sources tell NBC News he's a near constant presence at the Mar-a-Lago Transition HQ.
I can't get him out of here. He just likes this place. And you know what? I like having him here, too.
He traveled with Trump for his first trip back to Washington since his election victory. And in a report not confirmed by NBC News, the New York Times citing 2 Iranian officials that says that Musk met with Iran's ambassador to the United Nations in an attempt to smooth tensions between the countries. Trump also reportedly handed the phone to Musk while talking to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. But Musk's close access to Trump does not come without potential problems. The billionaire's various companies have major contracts with the federal government. His company, SpaceX, has received billions of dollars in federal projects.
Are you kidding me?
His company, Tesla, sells more electric cars than any other company. If Trump slashes the federal incentives for EVs, it could make it more difficult for other car makers to enter the market. On Capitol Hill, Republicans seem open to letting the successful businessman have a crack at finding ways to make government work better.
With his leadership and cutting waste in the government, just as he's taken us to the stars, I think it's the ability to cut and, turbocharge this economy.
While Democrats remain skeptical.
We all want government efficiency. In the past, that has failed miserably, but let's see what he comes up with.
And Musk has not responded to those concerns over potential conflicts of interest. The new Department of Government Efficiency that Musk will head with Vivek Ramaswamy has no statutory power. All they can do is offer up recommendations. Those recommendations would have to be passed into law by Congress before any cuts would be made. Joe.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much. The current president, President Biden, is in South America for his final round of global summits in office. The president arrived in the Peruvian capital Lima yesterday for the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit, also known as APEC. He's expected to meet with the leaders of Japan and South Korea today before sitting down with China's President Xi tomorrow. NBC News White House correspondent Mike Memoli is in Peru and joins us now. So, Mike, we know this APEC meeting going to be one of the last few appearances by President Biden on the world stage before President-elect Trump takes over. Can we expect anything substantive from this summit? And what can we expect from today's meetings with with Japanese and South Korean leaders?
Well, Joe, there's no doubt that there's what's on the official agenda, things like boosting mutual trade relationships, sustainable development, green energy investments. And then there's all the conversations that are going to be happening behind closed doors, especially among everyone but President Biden, frankly, as this is the first opportunity that many of the other 20 countries participating in APEC will have had a chance to meet face to face since Donald Trump's election. And so there's no doubt that the questions that they're going to be asking one another is how to prepare for a potential Trump administration policy, especially as it relates to things like tariffs, which could be a major shock to the world economy. For President Biden's part, what the administration is hoping to do is to focus on cementing what he considers to be some major accomplishments from his one term in office. And we'll see that specifically when he sits down today jointly with the Prime Minister of Japan and the President of South Korea. Now, of course, these two countries are longtime U.S. allies, have long had strong relationships with the U.S., but it's only been in the last 2 years under Biden's leadership and encouragement that these two countries have improved relationship with one another. And that's been all part of the administration's strategy to try to counter the rising influence of China, but also to deal with the constant provocations coming from North Korea. So that'll be an important opportunity for the president today to try to cement that new trilateral arrangement as a permanent fixture of U.S. foreign policy going forward.
Of course, Mike, the big meeting tomorrow, Mr. Biden sit down with President Xi. We know the Chinese leader's been busy inaugurating that China-funded megaport in Peru. So how is President Biden preparing for these talks, given that President-elect Trump is taking over in about 2 months?
Well, this will be the last of 3 meetings that these two men have had face-to-face during President Biden's time in office. But this is a long relationship that stretches longer, over a decade, in fact, since both of these men first met when they were both vice presidents of their respective countries. And Jake Sullivan, the national security advisor, said the agenda is full. It's not just about these two men having a final chance to say goodbye to one another. It's about dealing with issues like the constant concern about Taiwan's sovereignty, about China's role in supporting Russia in its war with Ukraine, but also more than anything about ensuring predictability in this relationship. There's probably no more important or consequential relationship than the U.S. and China relationship. It's all about having a strategic competition is the buzzword that the U.S. likes to use in this framework. And so they want to ensure that there is a smooth transition. There is predictability, especially in military to military communications as they prepare for this transition to the Trump administration.
And Mike, we did see protests on day one of the summit. That includes demonstrators clashing with riot police. What more can you tell us?
Well, Joe, some of this is kind of typical. We would see this at almost any international gathering like this, but there are some unique situations here in Peru that are driving a lot of these clashes. One is just the continued political instability here in Peru. Peru's president has, by one poll estimate, a single-digit approval rating. She only took office after the previous president was driven from office, after he tried to disband the Congress, to disband the courts. So that continues to be a concern. But a major issue driving this is also rising crime. We have seen a significant concern, especially about extortion payments that are being demanded of public transit workers. So this is a concern on the part of a lot of these citizens about improving the violence situation here. One thing that the government here has tried to do to quell this is to essentially declare a national 4-day holiday to keep people home, keep people off the streets, Joe.
All right. Mike, thank you so much. Turning now to the ongoing wildfires across the Northeast. This weekend, the region is facing a higher risk of new fires, with windy conditions expected to add fuel to the bone-dry drought. The Jennings Creek fire has been burning along the New Jersey-New York border for almost a week now. We've seen fires pop up here in New York City, with brush fires sparking near train tracks and even in popular parks. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa has the latest from Woodland Township, New Jersey. Emily, good morning.
Hey there, Joe. Good morning to you. There have been some 1,300 wildfires in New Jersey throughout the year, and nearly half of them started burning within just the last 6 weeks. And one of the critical pieces of the firefight is right here. It's these helicopters that firefighters rely on not only to track where the blaze is moving, but also to douse flames in hard-to-reach places.
This morning, there are growing fears strong winds could fan the flames of wildfires across the Northeast over the next couple of days. In New York City, smoke seen above Upper Manhattan as a brush fire burned at Inwood Hill Park this week amid a historic dry spell in the Big Apple.
As these dry conditions continue, we anticipate that we will see more of these before rain comes.
New York City's fire department says it has responded to a record 229 brush fires over a 2-week period. The Jennings Creek fire, burning in both New York and New Jersey, is now 50% contained, nearly a week after it started. Some nearby schools are closed today as a precaution, as crews use smaller controlled burns in an effort to contain the larger blaze.
We are setting fire to fight the fire. Don't be alarmed. It's where we want it. It's fire that we're putting down to do a job.
Nearly 60% of the Northeast is currently under moderate drought, with it especially pronounced in New Jersey, the state seeing its driest conditions in nearly 120 years. This fire in Burlington County has been burning since July 4th. Parts of Pennsylvania, New York, and all of New Jersey and Delaware are under drought watches and warnings with voluntary water conservation efforts. Climate scientists say if the Northeast doesn't see rain soon, we can expect more fires through the holiday season.
Since June, parts of New Jersey have seen about 6 to 11 inches less rain than normal. To give you an idea of just how severe the drought conditions are, there are some nearby rivers and reservoirs that these kinds of helicopters rely on to go pick up water and douse the flames, but they're running too low for them to even utilize those water sources. It shows the dangerous domino effects that we are seeing here with these dire conditions and more strong winds expected today, Joe.
All right, Emily, thank you so much. Let's get right to the forecast. A look at what to expect this weekend with your morning news now weather. Angie Lassman's here. Angie, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. I know you just heard Emily talking about how dangerous and dire those situations are, and hopefully some rain would be in sight. But unfortunately, we just don't see that. We keep those same kind of ingredients going with this weather pattern where we're, of course, dealing with the dry conditions from that drought, the low humidity, and the gusty winds. Notice how many folks are waking up once again in those fire alerts, and a lot of these are going to stay in effect well into our weekend as well. Here's why. I mentioned the dry conditions. It's not just the vegetation. It's not just the drought conditions that I'm talking about when I say that. We've also got really dry air in place. So that measure of moisture in the atmosphere, how much humidity we have, below 30% in a lot of spots, below 10% for some folks like Boston and Hartford. So just incredibly dry air in place, the dry grounds, of course, and then those windy conditions that Emily just mentioned, 20 to 30 mile per hour winds are what we're expecting. Some of these peak gusts for places like Hartford, close to 30 miles per hour. So again, not what we want to see when, of course, we are battling those fires still. And, of course, when it comes to spreading fires, things are just, quite honestly, all the ingredients that we need to see exactly that. So we'll watch for that today. Big picture look on what's going on with the drought. Nationwide, I mean, it's been quite impressive as far as how expansive the drought is. We've got more than half of the lower 48 in at least a moderate drought. There's been a little bit of an improvement since last week. In some spots, we've received some rain in some locations, but places like the Northeast, this is the worst drought since 2002. You can see more than 50% in the moderate drought and a couple of pockets there in that extreme and even exceptional drought. So again, not a whole lot of rain in sight for folks across that region, but we'll have to wait and see maybe late next week if we can pick up some additional rain there. As far as the tropics are concerned, it is still churning. We've got Tropical Storm Sarah, 50 mile per hour winds sitting just off the coast of Honduras, about 40 miles to the southeast. Notice it sticks around that same general region here over the next couple of days. We are going to be watching for the potential for this system to hang out right there, Joe, and then we'll see it move on to the Yucatan Peninsula and potentially dissipate before we get into Monday, which is, of course, good news for anyone that has been monitoring this for concerns for the Gulf Coast of the United States.
All right, we'll see what happens. Angie, thank you so much. Much more to come on this Friday edition of Morning News Now, including another scare in the skies. An American Airlines flight narrowly avoiding a mountain in Hawaii shortly after takeoff. We're going to bring you the harrowing ATC audio as it happened. But first, after the break, a high-profile FBI raid targeting the CEO of a popular betting site. Why the results of the election are playing a big role in all of it. Those stories and much more next. Welcome back. NBC News has learned the CEO of betting site Polymarket had his cell phone and other electronic devices seized during an FBI raid of his New York City apartment this week. That's according to sources familiar with the matter. The raid comes after the company predicted President-elect Trump's election win. NBC News correspondent Valerie Castro has more details.
While poll after poll showed the presidential election in a dead heat.
Look, this is our running average of the polling averages in the battleground states. They're all close.
In the world of online prediction betting, a different picture emerged. Crypto gambling site Polymarket showing that a majority of users thought Donald Trump would win in the final weeks of the campaign. Supporters, including billionaire Elon Musk, citing those numbers, saying they were more accurate than polls.
Either too early to call or too close to call.
On election night, as our NBC News decision desk carefully analyzed the vote and was hours away from projecting Trump as the winner, Polymarket declaring on X, the prophecy has been fulfilled. Shayne Coplan, the 26-year-old CEO of Polymarket, taking a victory lap on CNBC's Squawk Box.
The thing that is undeniable was the night of the election, Polymarket was the first destination to basically convey that Trump had won. And it was a good 2-3 hours ahead of media.
In a stunning turn, that CEO coming face to face with federal agents as they raided his New York City apartment Wednesday morning, seizing a cell phone and other electronics, according to a source familiar with the matter. Coplan, who was not arrested or charged, joking on X after the raid, new phone, who dis? A source tells NBC News it is not clear if Coplan or Polymarket is under investigation. Betting on elections was made legal in the U.S. for the first time in nearly a century this year, but only in markets regulated by the federal government, which means Polymarket is only legal for users outside the U.S.
So Polymarket had a deal with the CFTC, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, which regulates all betting platforms, that they were not allowed to have U.S. users on their site because they were not officially and properly registered with the agency.
But Coplan blaming the Biden administration for the raid, writing, it's discouraging that the current administration would seek a last-ditch effort to go after companies they deem to be associated with political opponents.
The people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Then posting this video, writing, Polymarket called it, you called it. In the face of adversity, we build.
It becomes this really digestible mass market concept that even now we're just starting to begin to see the potential of.
Earlier this year, Polymarket faced scrutiny over single bettors placing huge bets. One anonymous user in France known as the Whale betting $30 million.
A lot of the critique was, are people trying to manipulate the market?
Right.
Could one or two big whales, do something? There was obviously, you did your own investigation into this fellow from France, apparently.
Yes.
That Whale's final takeaway, an estimated more than $80 million in profits spread out across several accounts, according to the blockchain analysis firm Chainalysis. A Polymarket spokesperson telling CNBC in a statement, the Whale is a French national with, quote, extensive trading experience and a financial services background.
Our thanks to Valerie Castro for that report. Now, although the deal Polymarket has with the federal government bans people in the U.S. from placing bets, industry watchers say Americans could be bypassing those restrictions. Now to another close call in the skies. We're hearing urgent new audio from inside the cockpit of an American Airlines flight that had to perform what's known as an expedited climb to avoid hitting a mountain in Hawaii. The Los Angeles-bound flight had just taken off from Honolulu International Airport on Wednesday when air traffic control jumped in over the radio to instruct the pilot. Take a listen.
Expedite your climb through terrain and then turn right heading 120.
There are no reports of any injuries on the flight. Early this morning, American Airlines released a statement saying, quote, the safety of our customers and team members is our top priority. During the climb out of HNL, that's Honolulu's airport, the crew received right turn clearance and complied, adding the plane's warning system did not go off since there were, quote, no issues with terrain clearance based on the plane's trajectory. The FAA is investigating the incident. Tensions were high around Paris on Thursday night as Israel's soccer team played the French national team. A brief scuffle did break out between fans in the stands at the Stade de France just outside the capital, but the thousands of police officers deployed at the stadium and across Paris ensured there was no further violence. The increased security comes a week after Israeli soccer fans were caught up in violence in Amsterdam amid heightened tensions over the war in the Middle East. France's President Macron and the Prime Minister and two ex-presidents all attended yesterday's game in solidarity with Israel. Hours before the match, several hundred pro-Palestinian protesters gathered near the stadium to denounce the game and the French politicians attending it. NBC News international correspondent Claudio Lavanga joins us now from Paris with more. Claudio, good morning. So what can you tell us about what happened during yesterday's soccer match and those protests leading up to it?
Good morning, Joe. That's right. Despite a serious security concern, that the soccer match between France and Israel just went along without any major incidents apart from that small fight that broke out on the stands, as you mentioned, between the French and Israeli supporters. But that fight was really a minor incident compared to what the fears were that could have happened here, which is that what happened back in Amsterdam last week could have taken place, that violence could have taken place in the streets of Paris on Thursday night. Also, as you mentioned, there was a protest before the game about a mile away from the stadium that was organized by pro-Palestinian supporters. In the end, there was about a couple of hundreds of those, and they waved Palestinian flags. They chanted pro-Palestinian slogans, but in the end, the crowd it was peaceful. The crowd dissipated, and so did the fear that could turn violent too, Joe.
You know, Claudio, we know Paris just hosted the Summer Olympics this past July. Does it seem like the security preps for that event helped plan yesterday's coverage?
Well, more than the security plan for the Olympics, it's probably what happened back in 2015, as you may remember, the series of terror attacks here in France. That's what really prepared the police and the authorities for what happened next. So the security around the Olympics, and then, of course, the security around high-risk games, as it was called by the authorities, as the soccer game between France and Israel, Joe.
All right, Claudio, thank you so much. More international headlines now. In the Middle East, another Israeli airstrike has killed several people in Lebanon. NBC's Matt Bodner has that and some other world headlines. Matt, good morning.
Joe, good morning. At least 15 emergency workers were killed yesterday in Israeli strikes in Lebanon. That is according to local officials. One strike taking place in northern Lebanon targeted a civil defense center in Baalbek, killing the city's civil defense chief. Lebanon's Civil Defense Agency conducts emergency and medical services. It is not affiliated with Hezbollah. This all comes as the U.S. has submitted a proposal for a ceasefire to the Lebanese government, and both sides of the conflict have actually signaled that they are optimistic that a truce is on the horizon. Moving along now to North Korea, Supreme Leader Kim Jong-un presided over the test of a new type of suicide drone, and he was so impressed that he has now called for mass production of the design. He says that the introduction of these types of weapons all around the world requires an urgent update to military theory. Drones of this type have, of course, been a major feature of the war in Ukraine, where Kim has recently sent 10,000 of his own troops to support Russian forces. North Korea's speedy development of these types of drones has drawn speculation that Vladimir Putin is sharing military technology with Kim in exchange for support against Ukraine. And we'll wrap up this hour in Delhi, where local officials have ordered all primary schools to cancel in-person classes until further notice, citing thick smog engulfing the city. 100 miles away, the smog was still so thick that it actually obscured the famous Taj Mahal. This annual smog is estimated to reduce life expectancy of local residents by up to 7 years. And actually, the air quality across northern India has deteriorated over the past week, with pollutant levels recorded at 50 times the WHO's daily maximum exposure. Joe?
All right, Matt, thank you so much. Coming up, we have got an urgent health alert for you on this Friday morning. What medical experts say is causing a concerning rise in whooping cough cases all across the country. How you can keep your family healthy this holiday season. That's next. Back now with the latest on the Menendez brothers' fight for freedom. We have new details this morning about corrections officers who are asking for the brothers to be resentenced, as the incoming district attorney just elected says the renewed attention surrounding the case will have no effect on his decision. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz spoke to the new DA-elect and joins us from L.A. with the latest. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Joe. Good morning. Yeah, and a new 625-page filing. Lawyers for Eric and Lyle Menendez, along with the current district attorney, are making the case for why they should be resentenced and released. But we are also hearing from the incoming DA, who is criticizing some of the true crime fans who have taken a position on the case.
This morning, new details on the Menendez brothers' bid for freedom. A new legal filing revealing Eric and Lyle's attorneys will turn to prison employees to make the case they should be resentenced and released. This coming as the incoming Los Angeles district attorney is preparing to make his own recommendation on the case, criticizing those who have formed an opinion based on the Netflix series about the murders.
I know for a fact none of these people have actually done the hard work to put themselves in a position to thoroughly understand all the facts involved in a resentencing.
I just wanted it to stop.
The show recently propelling Eric and Lyle's story back into the public zeitgeist, 35 years after they murdered their parents, Jose and Kitty, in their Beverly Hills mansion. The brothers, who argue they acted in self-defense after years of sexual abuse by their father, gaining sympathy from celebrities and true crime TikTokers, joining several of the Menendez family members who want them released.
Together, we can make sure that Eric and Lyle receive the justice they deserve and finally come home.
The new filing includes personal statements from both brothers outlining how prison has changed them. Correctional officers also writing in support, with one describing how Eric constantly conducts welfare checks on fellow inmates. Another officer writing they strongly urge the resentencing of Lyle Menendez, who wrote in his letter that he now works to help survivors of sexual abuse.
Do you believe that the Menendez brothers were sexually abused?
Again, I have not done the thorough review, and I'm not going to base my review, and though I haven't seen it, on some Netflix documentary or limited series, as many people have.
The DA-elect saying he will also review arguments against their release, like those made by the original prosecutor who spoke out to Dateline.
If you use rational thought on this case, they should stay in prison for life without parole. If you use emotion, then, oh my God, why are they still there today? Let them out tomorrow.
What do you say to those who say, wait a second, there's a lot of people who have maybe committed heinous crimes that are then rehabilitated decades later?
And that's exactly the point. Menendezes get no special treatment. They will get equal treatment.
If the incoming DA does come out against this resentencing, what happens then?
Yeah, again, we're still waiting on his recommendation, Joe, but let's say he has a different position than the current DA. Either way, a hearing is still going to happen. The DA, the new one, can't stop that, but he can make it more difficult by filing additional material and evidence to the court supporting his recommendation. It ultimately will come down to a judge, though, followed by the parole board, and then if he decides to weigh in, the governor to make the final decision. And remember, Joe, at any time, the governor can also right now grant clemency and get them released. Joe.
All right, Liz, thank you so much. Turning now to a health alert, states are seeing a spike in whooping cough cases. Check out this preliminary data from the CDC. It shows this year more than 5 times as many cases of the bacterial illness have been reported as of November 9th compared with the same time in 2023. Here's reporter Temi Topa from our affiliate station in Providence, Rhode Island.
I'm just wondering why we had this whooping cough, what caused it, where it came from.
Diane Pantig is the grandmother of a Portsmouth high school student. She is trying to figure out why cases of whooping cough, also known as pertussis, are increasing.
We have had this increase in whooping cough over the past 6 months or so. It really kind of peaked more in the summer, so not surprising that we're still seeing it now that the kids are all back in school and, hanging out together. It makes sense.
Whooping cough is a highly contagious respiratory infection. And while it's not at all unusual, it is on the increase. State epidemiologist Dr. Suzanne Bornschein says they have seen 224 cases in Rhode Island since April, one of the highest number of cases in a decade. She says 80% are in the 5 to 18-year-old age groups. 8 to 9% are in children under 5 and about 11% in young adults.
And what is interesting is about 88% of the kids are up to date, who are younger than 18 are up to date on those vaccines, which is great news.
So with 88% of children protected, why are we seeing numbers this high?
several factors at play there. And one, of course, is that during the pandemic, we probably didn't have as much exposure to the usual childhood illnesses. We also know that this vaccine is a good vaccine, but it's not 100%. So we are going to see some cases, even in folks who are fully vaccinated.
Symptoms for whooping cough are a head cold, fatigue, fever, runny nose, which can result in a persistent cough similar to the flu or COVID. The state recommends making sure your child is up to date on their Tdap shot or booster and taking them to a pediatrician if you think they have whooping cough.
Get your kids vaccinated.
Our thanks to Temi Topa for that report. Joining us now for more, NBC News medical contributor Dr. John Torres. Dr. Torres, good to have you with us. So data from the CDC shows the number of cases being reported this year up since 2019. That was prior to the pandemic. Do you expect we're going to continue to see cases rise, especially as we move into the busy holiday season?
And Joe, I do expect those cases to go up, and we've talked about this in the past, where once we start getting into the holiday season and people start congregating, these diseases start spreading. And we always talk about kind of the three diseases that are out there: whooping cough, COVID, and flu, top of RSV as well. And so we have to be careful with all of these, and we certainly don't want to go back to those days where we had hundreds of thousands of cases, because this disease does have a mortality rate with it. It is 1%, but at the same time, those most affected are the very young children.
Dr. Torres, we just heard the majority of cases health professionals are seeing are in kids ages 5 to 18, but children are not the only ones at risk, right? I mean, who's most at risk, and what are some of the risk factors?
And Joe, you're exactly right. The ones we most concern ourselves with are obviously the small children, especially those below the 3 months old, especially those below 2 months who can't get vaccinated. Their mortality rate, if they get hospitalized, could go up as high as 34%. But also, anybody that has respiratory issues and pregnant women are at risk for this, and that's why they encourage getting this vaccination. With the whooping cough, the vaccination is the pertussis vaccination, which is incorporated in our Tdap shot. If we get a tetanus shot, you get a pertussis shot as well. And for children, it's a DTaP shot. And so making sure they get that is very important.
In addition to getting that vaccine, what are some of the other steps that people can take to just try and prevent getting whooping cough?
You know, this is the thing we talk about always, when we talked about during the pandemic many, many times. If you're sick, you want to stay home. And I know during the holidays, it's important to get with family, but at the same time, you want to get with family and make sure everybody stays healthy. If you are concerned and you are getting with family and there's somebody at high risk, you know, definitely wear a mask. And again, ventilation is an important thing. Getting vaccinated now before the holidays, you know, making sure you're up to date on that Tdap shot is extremely important to protect yourself, but also protect those that are most vulnerable, especially the very small kids.
In the past few years, have we seen a dip in people getting the vaccine? Is that part of the issue here or no?
And that is definitely part of the issue, Joe. You need a certain vaccination rate. That herd immunity we've always talked about, you need to make sure that gets maintained throughout the community, because this is not just simply a disease that you get if you don't get a vaccine, and so you're taking your own risk. You're risking other people as well. So making sure that you're up to date on that vaccine. And for adults, that Tdap vaccine I've been talking about, you get it every 10 years. And so it's not something that you have to get that often, and it's not that big of a vaccine if you look at other vaccines as well. And so, you know, definitely I encourage people to get vaccinated. And like we mentioned, if you're sick, stay home. If you are out and about and you're coughing, go ahead and cover up, wear that mask, and protect those around you.
We're all in this together. All right, Dr. Torres, as always, thank you so much. Have a good weekend. Coming up, price check after the break, how Amazon is battling back against those big discount retailers like Temu and Shein, where you can snatch some of the best new deals. Next. We're back now with some financial headlines. Google has added some new features to Maps to help with that holiday stress. CNBC's Silvana now has that and some other money news. Silvana, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Happy Friday. Yeah, so Google has added new travel and shopping features to Maps, and this could help you with your holiday shopping. So you can now search for items and find nearby stores that sell them with directions and whether the product is currently in stock. Now, there's also an update for EV drivers. You can plan your trips on your phone and send it directly to your car, including charging stops, and Maps can tell you which stations are compatible with the plug used by your vehicle. Hyundai is promoting its North America chief to be the automaker's next CEO. Jose Munoz, a U.S. citizen, is the first non-Korean to lead Hyundai. Now, under his tenure, the company's North American business has boomed, with sales growing 16% in the past 5 years. Hyundai has also committed more than $12 billion to build a new factory and 2 battery joint ventures in Georgia. And McDonald's is bringing back a fan favorite. Starting today, the holiday pie will be in restaurants and select markets while supplies last. Now, it was first introduced in 1999 and has been a holiday staple since. It's made with a creamy custard in a buttery crust, glazed with sugar and topped with rainbow sprinkles. McDonald's says customers should check the mobile app to see if it's being sold at locations near them. Joe, sounds delicious.
Yeah, just make sure the pie cools down.
Those
pies could be like molten lava.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Savannah. Appreciate it. Amazon is launching a new program to compete with low-cost online retail stores like Temu and Shein. NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans has more on the retail giant's new discount store, Amazon Haul.
Some competition coming for Temu and Shein. The ultra cheap and trendy online retailers ship goods from China directly to U.S. customers.
The quality on this dress goes insane.
Young shoppers often taking to social media to showcase their hauls.
I am in love with this cardigan.
The site's soaring in popularity with a business model that bypasses import fees on purchases less than $800. Now, Amazon entering the race to fill Americans' carts with the cheapest products possible, launching what it calls Amazon Haul, with items like an iPhone 16 case for $1.79, a nose trimmer for $2.19, and holiday table runners for $2.99. Courtney Reagan covers retail for CNBC.
What is this market for super cheap?
Americans have just become more price sensitive than ever, but they also have the ability to almost buy from more places than they ever have before.
With low prices come longer delivery times. Instead of 1 to 2 days for your Amazon order, 1 to 2 weeks.
The consumer who's shopping for this stuff, quality is not top of mind.
Yeah, they're inexpensively made, and they ultimately have to be okay with the fact that the quality may not hold up over time, as long as they're also okay with the impact, the environmental impact of tossing a good after so few uses.
Amazon says any product offered in its stores must comply with its labor, health, safety, and sustainability standards. The online giant adapting to the retail world it once revolutionized.
$2 nose trimmer. All right. Our thanks to Christine Romans for that report. The new Amazon Haul service currently in beta testing and is available on the app. Coming up, if it's Friday, you know your weekly can't miss list is right around the corner. It's the latest and greatest from the world of entertainment, just in time for the weekend. So grab that morning breakfast popcorn. That's right after this. Finally this hour, it's Friday, which means it's time for your weekly can't-miss list with all the movies and shows you need to see this weekend. Let's bring entertainment journalist, pop culture expert Brian Balthazar, friend of the show. Brian, good to have you with us. I feel like we're chatting with each other on opposite ends of the Starship Enterprise here. So,
right, it's very Minority Report. Just go like this a little bit through between the films, and we're good to go.
If I don't like what you're saying, we'll just, all right. I will love what you're saying. Let's start in the theaters. Exactly. Albany Road. It's a road trip, but with a twist, right?
Right. This is a smaller release film. This is in mostly AMC theaters. This stars Renee Elise Goldsberry and Lynn Whitfield. Renee's character is a young woman who needs to get to a business meeting, a very important meeting, and somehow, through a series of unfortunate events, has to share a ride with her ex-fiance's mother. This is really about relationship dynamics, but there's also a secret that her almost mother-in-law has been keeping from her that is going to uproot everything and cause a lot of drama. Again, it's getting a lot of good early buzz, actually, from the people who have seen it at some festivals early on in the year.
That's cool. Renee is great. She, of course, Tony winner for Hamilton, Girls 5 Eva, if you love that show. All right, holiday movie season, Red 1. We got Dwayne Johnson, we got Chris Evans, we've got Lucy Liu. This seems like it could be a hit.
Yeah, this is interesting. So this is a story of Santa has been kidnapped, and we need to get the help of operative extremely large and formidable. Note the letters there spell out ELF. That's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Chris Evans to rescue him. The interesting thing about this, if you're a parent, the biggest fans of Santa may be too young for this film. It's probably going to reach a slightly older, maybe early teen or teen audience. So parents who are going to consider saying their kids should take a look at the trailer before setting this. But it's action-packed, funny, and it has all those kind of of innuendos that are meant only for adults in there too. So I think this is going to be a holiday crowd pleaser, but parents should take a look before they send their youngest kids to this.
Not going to be the Polar Express. All right, so let's move to TV. NBC has a new medical mockumentary. It is called St. Denis Medical. It's being compared with The Office. My mother-in-law texted the other day. She was watching it and really liked it. What should we know?
Right. So this is kind of The Office meets Scrubs because it's a mockumentary. Wendy Clinton-Covey, who you know there from The Goldbergs and Reno 911. I mean, she's just a comedic treasure. Also stars David Alan Grier. And it is just the misadventures and the craziness of this hospital staff and administration and things that happen. It's kind of nice to see a hospital show that's not a gripping drama with constantly tearing at your heartstrings. This is funny. You can see this on Peacock. It's also streaming. It's also airing on linear television. You can watch it on TV live, or should I say live, you know, but you can stream the 2 episodes on Peacock right now. And then, of course, every week.
Okay, and then there's binge watching. There's a new streaming series that is on Peacock. This one is called Day of the Jackal. I know you've got Eddie Redmayne in it, and it's based on a book.
Right. Okay. So this is based on Frederick Forsyth's 1971 novel, and Eddie Redmayne is an assassin, and Lashana Lynch is a killer. She is the British intelligence officer who's trying to track him down. It kicks off with a 5-episode drop, and then switches to weekly installments. It is incredibly well. The cinematography, the photography is incredible, and of course the performances. You have great acting performances from Eddie Redmayne and Lashana Lynch. I just love this kind of action thriller and the assassin who always seems to get away in the nick of time through a series of incredible means. This is a really compelling series to watch.
I probably threw you off because I skipped one we were going to talk about, and it's for folks who like Yellowstone. The show's creator, Taylor Sheridan, has a new limited series. It's on Paramount, and it's called Landman. What should we know?
Right. This is kind of a drama that's like the Roughnecks versus the Millionaires, and it's placed in the billionaire executives who employ these workers in oil country of Texas, and it was based on a popular podcast. The incredible cast, though, I have to say: Billy Bob Thornton, John Hamm, Demi Moore, Andy Garcia, Ali Larder. The first 2 of the 10 episodes are streaming on Paramount on day 1, and then they'll be going out weekly. This is just kind of like a drama. And if you like Yellowstone, you're going to like the way the stories unfold on this as well.
And a lot of people like Yellowstone. That's a great cast there, too. All right, we got like 30 seconds left here. Say Nothing is on Hulu. This one also based on a book, right?
Right, yeah, and this is tracing the true stories of multiple IRA members across about 4 decades of the troubled times in Northern Ireland. Again, this is if this is your speed, this is for you. I know you're out of time, but check this out on FX.
All right,
or on Hulu, I should say.
That one's on Hulu. There's so many things to keep track of nowadays, but plenty to watch this weekend.
Right, FX produces it, and it airs on Hulu. It's a great mess. This is why we need the minority report squares to get it all squared away.
We're going to make some charts here and just surround your face with the charts. All right. Brian, always good to have you with us. That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.